So I've been teaching and consulting and developing software professionally since 2001, and developing software before that for about 3 or 4 years. I tend to spend most of my time teaching the first few weeks at Dev Bootcamp. I think that's the most interesting part, because that's the part where they go from traditional K-12, K through 12 or undergraduate or even graduate degrees or maybe professional experience into this new immersive environment where they're spending 60 to 80 hours a week working on something. When I'm teaching the class, if I'm wondering if the class understands something as a group, sometimes I'll scan the room, but sometimes I'll just stare at one student and I'll just have that conversation with the one student. And besides engaging that one student, I also pick up on the body language of everybody else in the room. And you'll notice things like people reacting with engagement, maybe leaning forward to hear something, maybe distracted by something, maybe holding too still, right? There's all sorts of signals that people give with their body language. And so without kind of trying to list off a menu of this equals that, it's a feeling that you develop of, it seems like people are confused, or it seems like people are getting this. And then obviously I'll just ask. I'll say, hey, it seems like there's a few folks who have some questions about this. If you haven't raised your hand yet, you should do so now. And suddenly you'll see 3 or 4 hands pop up in the room. That's really satisfying to feel like I'm able to sort of maintain an awareness of what students are thinking. I think if I were to say sort of like immediate things to compare on would be the amount of time that people have to commit, right? The reasons for which they're doing it, right? And then the sort of the effects that come from those, right? So the amount of time, like in most kind of education environments, you have this very little bit of time to interact with an expert. The minute you put people in a room together for several days or several weeks, you actually get to push up against the expertise. Like, hey, you've shown me this thing, I've played with it for about half a day now or a day. What do you think of this output? Am I any closer now to where I need to be? And you can get a very clear answer to that. There's another effect maybe that happens just over time. So given more than a few days or a few weeks to work with someone, given exposure to someone for 9 to 15 weeks that people spend at Dev Bootcamp, is the ability to get to understand a student's edge, which I'd never seen before Dev Bootcamp. How do I know where your capacity is? And knowing that edge gives me a chance to be able to sort of gently but convincingly push the edge a little bit. Right, to sort of invite a student to try one more thing. If you've gotten this thing done, well, what about this other thing? And you wouldn't see that in a traditional environment where just you don't have enough time to play with things like that. You have students at all levels. It's not just a bunch of people walking in green, let's say on day 1. You have a bunch of people walking in, some of whom have 4-year degrees or even professional job experience, programming or supporting programmers, right? And then you have people next to them, side by side, who maybe don't have a college degree at all. And some weeks later, they're all writing code that is above and beyond the code that they expected to be able to write. They're all able to realize a vision for a piece of software, for an application that solves a problem, sometimes very, very meaningful problems, right? Above and beyond their wildest dreams, which is pretty awesome. The secret ingredient to that is this playful curiosity, right? Like, I can't get enough of this stuff. And of course that raises the question for some people, like, why are you here? If you're just here for the job, it might be hard to lean in with that playful curiosity. But if you're actually excited about expressing yourself in software, if you're actually excited about learning this new vocabulary, learning this new skill, then it's not so hard to stay playfully curious about the material and to keep exposing yourself and overwhelming yourself and swimming out into the middle of the ocean of books and articles and so on. It takes students a few weeks here to realize that you need the same swimming skills to swim in 3 feet of water as 3,000 feet of water. So learning to be playfully curious, to build that stamina for playing with software, I think is maybe one of the best investments incoming students can make.